Well, I've come to the Australian War Memorial. Over there. I came to pay my respects to my Uncle Norman. You might have seen the post I've just sent earlier today about my family's story in relation to World War One. I used to live one street away from the War Memorial, about really stone's throw from here. I parked my car and I've walked here, and it's literally a few hundred paces away from the War Memorial where I lived, a beautiful red brick Canberra house that I noticed is being renovated at the moment. So I stood there, I parked the car, and I wondered, who's living in that beautiful house now? I know some of my friends were really sad, as was I, when the owner sold that house and we had to move out. So I came to pay my respects to my Uncle Norman, and after what I posted today, I just had a feeling I had to come and do that. And since I've become sick, I've learned to listen to my body and to trust my instincts, because they are what are keeping me alive right now. And so I've become very good at listening to my body intelligence, which has been one of the unexpected blessings of becoming sick, because strangely enough, facing your own mortality does come with blessings. I understand that now. It doesn't make it any less frightening either. It's both. It's both. So it's afternoon, so it's very noisy here. There's a lot of traffic. That's why I'm wearing this, because the pollen's low, but there's still car fumes around here. And there's two rosellas have just flown over. I'm sitting because I couldn't go into the War Memorial because of the construction. I'm sitting here at the Greek memorial, which I will post later, but it's a memorial to do with troops who died in Crete, actually, which goes back to the Queen, who I posted on the 1st of September. I posted a picture of myself as a queen who had woken up in Crete, and I associated that place with the Minotaur, the Western totem, the Western Psyche, and the need to heal the collective psyche. And that the bull really represents our collective shadow, the collective unconscious of the Western psyche that is causing so much havoc. That is what is behind wars, according to many psychologists such as Carl Jung. And after 15 years studying Jung, I believe that's true as well. I believe that we do not start wars primarily for greed or for power, but primarily wars happen because of fear. It is fear that drives hatred. And we see that with characters like Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, who are unconscious of their own fear. And so because they cannot see the softness that is also part of being human, their own fragility. We even saw it with Trump when he refused to accept that COVID, first that it existed, and then when he became ill, refused to even accept that he actually was infected somehow. That inability to see one's own fragility as a human being. And then connected with that, fear, really, of our own fear. Fear of fear is what drives war. It's not power and it's not greed, but it's fear that is beneath those other human emotions. And so here I am at the place which is talking about the birth of Western civilization, which is very interesting because that's what has been on my mind since I became ill and I decided to go back to the foundation Western myth, which is to do with Europa and the birth of Europe, and also that other shadow side of that bull that we locked into a labyrinth deep beneath the earth, which is a symbolic way of talking about, really, it's nothing mystical, all the things we sweep under the carpet about ourselves, all of those uncomfortable truths that we prefer not to look at, so we stick them in a box for later. One day they come out of the box, which is what happened, of course, when World War I and World War II erupted. People not dealing with their own material mindlessness is effectively what war is, a form of mindlessness where people have stopped being able to look in the mirror at themselves. And that's where we get the idea of Narcissus, who was unable to see his own reflection, and because he could not reflect on his own nature, instead he fell into the pool, which really was him falling into his own soul and drowning. It's a kind of self-destructive eventual outcome of our failure to see ourselves in the mirror for who we are in all of our aspects. And of course, we're all human. That's what it comes down to. And so here I am at the birth of Western civilization. Symbolically, that's what this memorial has told me it's about. I wanted to travel to Greece this year, and I still want to travel there next year if I can, but who knows what the future holds. But I've certainly traveled to Greece now, and I've been in Greece since 2020 in a lot of ways. I reconnected with a friend at the start of COVID because he was working in London, and I knew he was there working as a doctor and that he was going to be pummeled. It was before COVID had arrived here. And I connected with him to see how he was. And he was obviously pummeled, and he's had COVID at least four times now. He's so busy. But he was rowing across the Mediterranean at a time when he and I were not in touch. Between when we were talking to each other, and I didn't know this at the time, that he had rowed across the Mediterranean to raise money for charity, and as a challenge for himself as well. And I was painting pictures and drawing and writing stories about rowing across the Mediterranean. So we were definitely connected, even though we were not talking to each other at the time. And I think that we are all connected in a place where we can communicate with our hearts. This is just my personal philosophy based on experiences I've had, and in relation to grief and loss and losing loved ones. I think that we can, and being apart from loved ones as well, as I have been I haven't seen any of my family for about 3 years now, almost 3 years. So I've been very isolated, but I realized that we do communicate with our hearts and with our heart intelligence. And my Indigenous friends have totem spirits as well that are kinds of messengers between people's hearts. And you probably heard the white cockatoo there, which is my ex-partner Jeremy's animal totem, and whenever that animal's flying around, I'm quite sure that Jeremy's thinking about me, and sure enough, something comes up and it turns out to be the case. So here is me, citizen journalist Sheree, reporting from the War Memorial and the Greek monument that is here to remind us of the futility of war. The exact post that I made today. And so I have come to the right place, even though the War Memorial itself is closed for renovations, and that's another post of mine. That's another thing I will get on the soapbox about in future. I'll only note that on the way here I stopped to take a photograph of someone who had put a note on their own garbage bin asking that they not be evicted from their house. I stopped to take a photograph of that, and then I stopped in a park to take a photograph of a tree that I will also post. And I stood there thinking, how am I going to survive? I don't know how I'm going to live. I have to give up my car because I can't go back to where I work, and I don't know where I'm going to live, but I'm just going to have to put my faith in the future because I have to go forward. I cannot go back to that place for all the reasons I've posted. So I have to have faith now, and I have to back myself. And I will keep speaking out on my Facebook post because I know that that is my channel to draw attention to my circumstances. And I know that I live in a compassionate society. I don't think our government has that compassion. I certainly don't see it. But I know that the citizens of Australia, we are human beings. We are all compassionate. The problem here is the structures that have somehow become sick, like the bull, like the wounded bull. And I say that right now we're getting that bull out, and we're closely examining that bull, and we're going to heal the bull because we can't kill our own soul. That Minotaur we've locked in the labyrinth at the bottom of Western civilization is the collective shadow of the Western psyche. It is the shadow of the Western soul. It is our soul. It's not all darkness. It is dark, but it's only dark because we're not looking at it. Once we look there, we're going to see so much good that we've locked away, including, I think, our own capacity to love, because I have noticed how afraid we are in our society of love. I've noticed it by things I post, and I pay attention to people's responses and what people like and what they don't like. And I noticed that all of my posts about love are somehow frightening to people. And I get that. I'm afraid as well of losing people by saying something that I think that they won't understand, but I'm only acting from love. And I think if we just all remember that if our intentions are to be loving and to heal, if our intentions are only to do good in the world, that's all we need to know, and everything else will take care of itself. And I think that's the simple message of Buddhism from what I understand. And the Dharma, to enter the Dharma, is to enter love, because love makes the world go round. There's nothing mystical about it. It's just a fact of life that our life instinct is what keeps us alive, and our life instinct is what means that we are out here looking out for each other and loving one another. And only we have to look at the birds to understand that. I've spent a lot of time with the birds in especially the last year when I've been trapped in the house, and they are all around my house, and I watch them and I talk to them. They know me, I know them. They come up and they chat with me. Who knows what they're saying, but we get each other. They're saying something, that's for sure. But there's no complexity about the way they go about caring for their babies, looking out for their nest, protecting the nest from invasion and intruders. They are just completely relying on their instincts. And there's nothing evil. I'm telling you now, there is nothing evil about any of those birds around my house. They are simply like angels, and I think so are we. We're angels. We just need to trust in ourselves, trust our instincts, have faith, and above all, don't be afraid, but love.